Welcome back to Figuring It Out with Rachel Lee. I'm your host, Rachel Lee. Before we get into today's conversation, if something hits you while you're listening, if you feel called out, cracked open, or quietly seen, follow the podcast, leave a review, or send it to someone else who might need to hear this. That's how this finds the people it's meant for. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad you are joining the conversation. All right, let's talk about overcommitting. Not in the productivity hack, color-coded calendar kind of way, but in the way where your schedule's full, your brain's fried, and your soul feels far away from here. Overcommitting feels helpful. It feels like you're responsible. Sometimes it even feels holy. But most of the time, it's just another way of avoiding your own life. And listen, I know it's the beginning of the year. You're setting goals, saying yes, trying to start strong. So this isn't here to stop you. It's here to save you from spending the next 11 months overcommitting out of guilt, fear, or a habit. And if you still do it, because hey, we're human, maybe this gives you the awareness to catch it sooner, to ask why, to notice where that yes came from. Because I've been there. I've said yes when I was grieving. I've said yes to things that felt terrible. Said yes to just feel like I was still valuable. This isn't an episode about time management. This is about what we're really running from when we keep signing up for things that drain us. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let me give you a real example of what I was just talking about, because I don't think I have shared anything like this before. So years ago, I took over running my son's entire football organization, 1st grade to 8th grade. Not helping, not volunteering, running it. Why? Because nobody else stepped up. And because I thought I could handle it. I mean, I always could, right? But underneath that, I was grieving hard. And part of me thought, if I'm busy enough, maybe I won't really feel it so loudly. If I'm in charge, organizing things, scheduling things, holding things together, maybe I'll feel less untethered. And maybe, just maybe, people will respect me. Because if I'm the one running the show, surely that means I matter. Surely that means I'm seen. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Being in charge didn't give me peace. It gave me pressure. Turns out, when you say yes to leading something nobody else wants to touch, you don't just get the title. You get the logistics, the late nights, the parent complaints, the snacks, the drama, the everything. And here's what I've learned since then. And it's uncomfortable, but true. I didn't say yes to help. I said yes to feel like I was still someone. That version of me thought that usefulness would save me. And for a while, it probably looked like it did. But underneath it, I was exhausted, resentful, and quietly unraveling. And here's the thing. That wasn't some conscious, poetic realization. I wasn't walking around thinking, yes. Let me hold this all together so I don't fall apart. It was just how I was wired at the time. Go back to previous episodes. So I say yes, take over, be needed, stay busy. Somewhere in my nervous system, that felt like safety. Like if I kept doing everything, maybe it'd hold me together. And looking back, I can see it now. I wasn't saying yes to be helpful. I was saying yes because I didn't know how to sit with what I was feeling. Grief, loneliness, that slow, aching question of, what now? Overcommitting gave me structure. It gave me purpose. It made me feel like I was still in motion, and if I was in motion, maybe I wouldn't break. And no one questioned it. Because in our culture, the moment you say, I'm fine, while doing 17 things at once, people just believe you. They don't ask what you're running from. They just thank you for your time. And here's the truth underneath that. I wasn't just a girl who didn't want to feel. I was a girl who didn't even know how. I didn't have the language. I didn't have the capacity. I didn't have anyone modeling what it looked like to sit in it or to walk through it without numbing, fixing, or disappearing. So I said yes to tasks, to teams, to people, to pressure, because I knew how to do those things, but I didn't know how to do me. And saying yes made me feel like I still belonged somewhere, like I had a role, a reason, a rhythm. It looked like service, but it was survival. And just to be clear, not every act of service came from that place. There's a kind of giving that's rooted in love, not fear. And I've done that. But back then, I didn't really know the difference. So let's go back to that football story for a second. What I didn't say earlier is that it happened about 15 years ago. And when I got pregnant with my second son, that was my chance to tap out. I didn't make a dramatic announcement. I didn't say, you're all too much and I'm fucking done. I just bowed out. I actually said, hey, if anyone else wants to run it, go ahead. And that was true, but it was also my escape hatch. Because I didn't know how to say, this is too heavy and I'm tired. So I used my pregnancy as a permission slip to stop. But here's what's real. That football story wasn't a one-off. That was like the template. In my career, in my relationships, in my family, I was the, no problem, I got it, girl. You know that movie, like Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, when Christina Applegate's like, I'm right on top of that, Rose. Yeah, think that. Need something last minute? I got it. Need someone to handle it? That's me. Need an emotional labor without a thank you? Guess who's got it? I carried it because I could. And because I thought that's what strong women do. And don't get me wrong, now, in the era of meme therapy and soft girl seasons, we all know that when someone says, I'm fine, it usually means they're not. But back then, nobody knew. Or worse, they didn't care. Because if you're surrounded by people who benefit from your over-functioning, your over-committing, they're not going to be the ones to tell you to stop. They're going to clap. They're going to thank you. And then they're going to let you keep drowning. So yeah, I kept saying, I'm fine. Because nobody around me was checking for the truth underneath that. And looking back, yeah, some of it was heartbreaking. But some of it's kind of funny now. In that truth bomb, mic drop in a cardigan kind of way. Like, wow, we really did all that just to feel needed. And I say we on purpose because I know I'm not the only one who's been there. I'm not the only one who said yes when they meant no, who confused being wanted with being chosen, who thought being useful was the same as being loved. If you're nodding right now, I see you. No shame, no fixing, just naming what's real. Here's some truth that has snuck up on me. I wasn't just overcommitted, I was overoccupied. There's a difference there. Overcommitted means your calendar is full. Overoccupied means your soul is crowded. And the more I filled my schedule, the less time I had to sit with what was really going on inside me. Because I didn't want to feel lonely. I didn't want to feel unwanted. I didn't want to sit still long enough to hear what my gut was screaming. So I overdid. Not just at work, not just in volunteering or helping, but in relationships too. I filled my time with people who didn't ask much of me emotionally. Because if the bar stayed low, I didn't have to risk anything real. And I told myself I didn't want more. But here's what's wild. I wasn't lying to them. I was lying to me. Telling myself I was fine with shallow because it meant I didn't have to face rejection. Telling myself I was independent because deep down, I didn't think I was worth being chosen fully. So no, the overcommitting wasn't always about being needed. Sometimes it was about staying just distanced enough that I didn't have to feel the ache of what I didn't have. I didn't see it clearly then. I didn't think, wow, I'm pretending to be so busy so I don't have to sit with myself. I just kept moving. But now looking back, I can see it for what it was. And I'm sharing it, not because I think I'm enlightened, but because maybe hearing it will help you take inventory of your own life. Maybe this is you right now. Maybe it's not about how many things you're saying yes to. Maybe it's the why. And if that's true, that doesn't mean you're broken. And I know everyone says that now, like it's supposed to fix something. But let's be real. I didn't walk around telling people I was broken. I didn't sit in a puddle of tears every day. I worked. I raised my kids. I smiled at the store. I did what needed to be done. And that's the part people miss. Sometimes the hardest part of your life doesn't look like you're in a crisis. It looks like overfunctioning, like over-explaining, like doing too much for people who wouldn't do the same for you. So that's not brokenness. That's a nervous system trying to survive what you didn't have the tools to process. You were wired for survival. And now you're just learning how to live. So here's the new shift, if you will. I still say yes. I still show up. I'll still help. But the energy underneath it, completely different. Back then, saying yes felt like survival. I had to. Now, it's a choice. Because here's the truth. Sometimes service is sacred. Sometimes helping is healing. Sometimes doing the thing, organizing, stepping in, leading, is a reflection of who you actually are. But it only feels that way when it's not coming from fear. Not from fear of being forgotten, not from fear of being left out, not from fear that if you don't do it, you'll lose your spot at the table. And that's how I know the difference now. I used to say yes because I wanted to seem so capable. Now I say yes because I am capable. And I don't need anyone to clap about it. I used to say yes out of obligation. Now I say yes from alignment. Because I finally learned that my peace matters too. That my worth isn't tied to how many things I can carry. And that I don't owe anyone a dissertation about why I'm unavailable. Sometimes the most radical proof of healing is a quiet, no thank you. Or even better, no reply at all. And even though some of those yeses used to come from fear, from wanting to be liked, included, needed, one of the things I'm still proud of, my kids saw me show up. They saw me volunteer. They saw me participate. They saw that being part of a community means giving, not just taking. They've learned that we help others because we've been the ones who needed help. And I'll never forget this moment. We were walking into a Circle K. It was summer in Phoenix, Arizona, which means hell on earth temperatures. And there was a man sitting outside the doors by the trash can. And it was brutal outside. And he didn't ask for anything. But my oldest son looked at me and said, "Can we get him something to eat?" So we did. A cold drink that he could refill at that Circle K. Some food. No questions, no conditions, just kindness. And that man looked so grateful. Not because of what we gave him, but because we saw him. And that moment, that's what makes me proud. Not that I overcommitted, not that I burned myself out, but in the middle of all of that, my kids learned what it means to be human, to care, to notice, to offer something when no one asks. And before we wrap up, if you're listening to this and realizing I say yes before I even know what's being asked, I carry more than I need to, I don't even know why I'm doing it half the time. That's not a failure. That's a signal. And you don't have to ignore it anymore. This episode isn't here to shame you out of serving. It's here to help you pause long enough to notice why you're doing it. Sometimes we overcommit because we're avoiding something. Sometimes it's to feel valuable. Sometimes it's to prove we still belong. Somewhere, anywhere. But what if your worth was never supposed to come from what you can carry? What if you're allowed to do less and still be deeply loved? That's not soft. That's not weak. That's wisdom. And I know that now. Not because I read it in a book, but because I've lived it. I've lived the version of life where I overgave, where I overfunctioned, where I poured from an empty cup and called it purpose. And still, my kids saw me show up. They saw me care. There was a woman outside a Circle K in Phoenix. She was hard of hearing. My oldest son used to stop and talk with her, not just hand her money. He'd let her read his lips, make her feel seen, human. And they'd have their own type of conversation between them. And she was always so thankful. And one day she chased me down to ask where he was because he wasn't with me that day. And she wanted to tell me what a wonderful young man I was raising. And my youngest, he's the kid who notices when teachers are unfair, who doesn't laugh when someone else gets humiliated, who feels things deeply, even when no one's watching. So yeah, even in the seasons when I didn't know how to stop overcommitting, something sacred was still being passed on. Not perfection, not balance, but integrity. And listen, if this hits close to home and you don't have someone in your corner to hold space for you in this kind of unlearning, that's what I do. I coach people through this exact work, asking the real questions, naming the patterns, figuring out how to live with less performance and more peace. So if you're craving that space, that support, you can reach out. Please reach out, even if it's just for a conversation, because you don't have to figure this out alone. I'm Rachel Lee, and I'll see you next time as we keep figuring it out.